What's up, y'all? Okay, so how y'all doing today? I've been kind of forced to overcome a little bit of my grief from last week that I've talked about with y'all regarding Robert Xavier and his death, because some shit happened this evening that I just can't let go. And when I originally thought about talking to y'all tonight, I thought, I'm going to talk about this one particular area, but it actually touches base on some other blog entries that I've had over the last few months. So we're going to open up the library tonight, bitches. The library is now open, but in a way that I didn't think would be. So we're going to go on a little bit of a journey right now. Okay, so as y'all know, every now and then I attend this little HIV support group here in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday nights. For those of you that live in Washington, D.C., draw your own conclusions where I'm talking about. I won't go on record and tell you where it is. Anyway, now, before I go into the topic of discussion tonight, I'm going to say this. Every time I go to these meetings, I try to go with an open mind, an open heart, and try to meet people where they are. And in doing so, I try my best not to pass judgment, not to let my emotions come up on my face, not to immediately draw conclusions about where people are going to be in their lives or where they're headed, or just not say anything. I could not do that successfully tonight. Why? Because let me just give you an example. Okay. So, I've been having an interesting day myself. I've been mourning and grieving and etc., etc. Going into the group, the facilitator and I had a weird exchange, so that set things up for me in terms of where we're going. There was this random discussion going on about various topics in the group, but then all of a sudden one of the facilitators talked about loneliness. And somehow this gentleman that was at first sitting next to me then spilled his iced tea on my feet while I'm wearing flip-flops, mind you, then walks across the room and sits next to the other co-facilitator, this over-the-hill, overweight, etc. He says during the group, well, I'm lonely. Now, I was just going to let him be where he is and explain what his perspective on loneliness was until he said this one thing. I would rather have sex with a straight dude that I know has a girlfriend, and while I'm in the bathroom will steal $20 out of my wallet and then roll out, versus versus be vulnerable and have a naked level of emotional vulnerability and intimacy with an openly gay man. Now, mind you, this is the type of dude that will preface everything prior to today with, before I became a Buddhist. Now, I want to examine a few things with y'all tonight. I don't even have my pen and paper with me, so y'all gonna have to keep up. When he said that first statement, I pulled out my manicure kit and started just... Because this bitch was just... You lost me. First you say you're lonely and you will... Okay, now I understood what he was trying to say. He was trying to say... I'm sitting on my kitchen counter, y'all. Hey, I can fit on here. Fuck you if you don't like it. He's trying to tell the world, hey, because I'm lonely, I am in a place where I resort to pathological behavior because I don't know how to reach out in a healthy way to other men that are men of color, gay, and HIV positive, where I can have intimate relationships with. Now, if he said it in that kind of form, I would have understood it better. But this is the type of dude that will pay a trick to fuck him senseless, or to fuck him, or for him to fuck senseless, and for that same so-called straight dude to go home and fuck his girlfriend. That's his level of comfort in terms of addressing his loneliness. Now, let me explain to y'all what my explanation was and why I was so quiet during this meeting. before I even go there, my answer to the question, because the facilitator put me on the spot, said to me, I noticed you haven't answered the question, what do you feel about loneliness and how do you cope with loneliness? My question was this: I don't get lonely. You can dial a dick. Why? Because I'm at the point in my life where I love my solitude. I love coming home to a quiet home. I love being able to turn on the TV and just be by myself. I am in love with myself right now. I am in love with me. Anyone who comes into my life on that kind of level will have to share me with me. I learned that from Eartha Kitt. I celebrate me. I love relationships, but I love me first. I am in love with this motherfucker right here. You got to share me with me. And I had to remember something. I was the youngest person in the room in that group tonight, and that just reminded me of why I have so many other issues with so many of the other older, over the hill, overweight, overspent, burnt out, damaged, etc. Other negative connotations with older gay men that are HIV positive that have basically plateaued in their life and don't know exactly how to live life on an organic, value-based level. It's like when you take away the car, the money, the physical, the house, you take away all of that superficial shit. Can you still be an individual with me on a level where we're both emotionally and physically naked and just get real and raw with each other? That's the whole point that I'm noticing that is disconnected with my generation and the older generation. Now, anyone who is hearing this and takes offense to this, you're more than welcome to help me understand differently, because in the conversation that we had tonight, this man was trying to say that there are very few people that are like me that exist in DC. My question is, when was the last time you stopped looking for a man like me off the strip? Have you stopped looking for a trick long enough to see what's in front of you? Because I've been in front of you for the last 6 months, ever since I started going to these groups again. I'm a good example of what you could have. You can't have me because clearly you're too damaged and too beyond repair for me, darling. But is this a pattern that older gay men tend to develop because once they hit 40, they've decided that they're losing their looks and they're going through that midlife crisis, that they have to resort to those old school pathological behaviors where they can't quite connect with someone on their age level anymore and they have to go for what's pretty and stupid? Or am I just ahead of the game that much that people don't understand me and I have to dial it back for them? Either way, it's not going to happen, bitches. I'm never going to dial it back for anyone because I tend to need to be... If I have to dial it back for you, you don't need to be in my life. If I have to pay for sex, then I'm just going to stay horny. If I have to be the kind of person that seeks companionship and affection through those unhealthy ways like I used to, then I wouldn't be here where I am right now to talk about things with y'all. And I guess I have to accept the fact that everyone develops and grows and learns lessons in their own time. And that's basically what I've had to learn tonight. Stop judging, Damien. And I guess that's what I'm trying to tell y'all in 10 minutes or less. No matter whom you encounter, you never know the journey that they had. And I guess I have to respect the fact that this gentleman has been on the 22-year trek of tricking, as I'll call it, because he's been in DC for 22 years. He was born and raised in Pittsburgh, and then somehow between Pittsburgh and DC, he managed to just go from nothingness and boredom to tricking. I guess that's the journey that he decided for himself, but that doesn't work for me. And I think every time he speaks, it just disturbs me because it's just like, Don't you feel like you deserve better after you've hit 45 and you've realized that you don't have to do that anymore in 2014, where you can walk down the street holding hands with the man that you want to be physically and emotionally intimate with? Don't you ever get tired of the risk of being stabbed or shot by a trick that's straight, that fucks girls, that takes your money and robs you blind after you bang his box? I mean, it's just like, I want to be empathic. I want to be open-minded. I want to meet people where they are. But when there are other options out there and available to you, why should I just accept your limited perspective? And why should I dial back my open mind and my broad, diverse background just because you decide that you want to pick up a straight man? You tell me otherwise. Facebook, YouTube, let's talk about this, because I think that as long as the older gay male generation maintains these unhealthy pathological behaviors, there's going to always be a disconnect from the 35 and below crowd and the 35 and up crowd, because I'm at the point in my life where I will be turning 35, which means I will then be entering a new age demographic. But I see things both ways. I see why the young guys don't want to talk to the older guys and vice versa. And I just wish there was a way to bridge the gap and hopefully build some better resources where everyone is in a community where there's no threat toward one another, where the young ones don't feel like the older ones are sexual predators, and the younger ones don't feel like the younger ones are the older ones that don't feel like the younger ones are trying to get into their pockets. I don't know how I'm going to figure this. I'm going to try to figure this out before I die. And hopefully I will find a solution and contribute to that solution coming to fruition before I die. That's one of my bucket list goals. In the meantime, gay men, gay black men living in DC, living with HIV or not living with HIV, we got to do better. We got to do better. Because to hear this conversation in 2014, this disturbs me. We got to do better. For the rest of you, if you ever encounter someone that lives their life in a way that you feel like is a bit limited or antiquated or just maladaptive or pathological, and it disturbs you, don't make the mistake of judging them necessarily. Meet them where they are, understand where they are, and if it's healthy and they're open to encouragement, encourage them to be better. But don't do what I do and kind of just reduce them to nothingness. Hey, I couldn't handle it. I'm going to tell y'all straight up. I couldn't even wait for that group to end. I left out in the middle of them talking. I said, fuck this shit. I can't handle this anymore. I'm sorry. That shit was just too fucking deep for me. It's like, that's where he is. And everyone had to tell me, well, that's where he is. That's where he is in his life. Any man under 50, you don't have to go to the glory hole anymore. You don't have to go to the crew club anymore. There's Match.com. There's speed dating. There's other different ways of meeting a man instead of going on the fucking strip and going to the glory hole and the cruising spots. You should know better. Maya Angelou said, when we know better, we do better. Clearly, you've been living in that trick hole, or you've been trapped up in a trick bag for the last 22 years, and you love it so much, you don't want to come out of it. So for future reference, don't complain about being lonely. Go buy you another trick. That's the real talk. If I'm reading, I'm reading. The library's now closed, y'all. It's time for my sleepy time tea so I can get up and be fabulous for my next work day. I hope all of you are having a wonderful hump day. Be fierce, be fabulous, and be inspired. I'll catch you on the runway tomorrow. If no one else said I love you tonight, know that Damien does. I'm Damien Pierre Carter on Facebook, Damien Carter on YouTube, and I am the Supermodel Swagger on Instagram. That's Damien Pierre Carter on Facebook, Damien Carter on YouTube, and Supermodel Swagger on Instagram. Love ya.